Rajeev, let me start with the biggest news point, which is the signing of an agreement with the US. This was this dark cloud on the horizon and this looming threat. Tariffs were already underway. There was quite a considerable amount of pain that companies facing the external sector were facing. More than anything else, while we wait for clarity on this, is this a sigh of relief that is resounding across industry in India?
Thanks a lot, Alex. I think it's a very positive development. It's very positive for the sectors who have got impacted because of the tariff that was raised up to 50%. And a lot of these sectors were labor-intensive sectors. Beyond a point, a lot of these companies were MSMEs who were 100%, or large part of their revenues were really from exports to US. So for many of them, it was an existential issue in whether it was in gems and jewelry, leather, textiles, garmenting, and everything else. So I think for them, it's a big relief. The second is from an overall industry standpoint, whilst this number per se, impacted number is whatever, $50 billion number that everyone was talking about, $50 to $60 billion that was getting impacted. So in the overall scheme of $4 trillion, it doesn't impact. But from a sentiment standpoint, it had a massive overhang. So any media interaction you went to, any industry to industry interaction, any industry to government interaction, and if you talk to any investors who are looking at investing in India, this was the big issue. So I think you have, in a very strong overall economic environment, you had a few clouds. This was probably one of them. And I think that clearing away gives a massive sort of impetus to when you saw financial markets, stock markets, overall sentiment of the economy. The third is when you look at the overall global context, a strong India-US relationship has very positive ramifications. So when you're engaging with other countries also, when you're engaging with other economies also, it's very, very positive. And fourth, we must realize US is a $30–35 trillion economy, almost $3–3.5 trillion of imports. India's share is less than 3% on the merchandise exports. I'm just talking of merchandise imports. Sure. So when you have that market, to a large extent, to 60–70% excluded, when you have that market fully included in that, then I think it has a very positive impact, whether it's for Atmanirbhar Bharat, whether it's for people, companies looking at setting up manufacturing. So that's very positive. And then there were some question marks on services, on pharmaceuticals. I think that also goes away. So I think net-net, it's a very positive move for India, for sectors that are impacted from a macro standpoint, and also going forward, as India looks at stepping up much more strongly and emphatically on the manufacturing side. I think it's a very positive move.
And of course, we'll get some more clarity on the deal when the Honorable Commerce Minister speaks to all of you later today. Before that, though, let's talk about, interestingly, about 14 years back, Rajeev, or 15 years back, the term that people used to use in corporate India and otherwise, of course, to talk about an uncertain environment was VUCA. With the degree of uncertainty on the external front and the way that the world has changed, seismic shifts that we've seen in geopolitics or otherwise, and the way trade has been weaponized, how would you describe the scenario right now when you compare it with 15 years back?
It's very hard. I think this probably would be, there is always a current bias, but I would say from a geopolitical, geoeconomic standpoint, this would be one of the most challenging, uncertain time for sure, with so many things happening at one go, and fundamentally a change in world order, a change in how countries view their economic strength, view their strategic strength, and how do they effectively leverage. Earlier, strength was used to, in many ways, build a world order. Now, I think strength is used much more to say, how does it benefit, the individual country concerned. So I think that's a big change. And therefore, economic strength, strategic resilience, supply chain resilience, how do you stand from a defense standpoint, how do countries focus more and more on resilience. I think all those things become much more important. But honestly, from my standpoint, a bigger change than this, I think we are focusing a lot on geopolitics and geoeconomics. The related issue is that all the countries are looking at having a right balance of trade and others. So, you have one part of the world which has massive trade surplus, which is almost doing 30% plus manufacturing of the world. How does the world cope up with that? I think that probably, in my view, is a bigger question mark that we'll see, because some of those countries are also very, very advanced on technology, on cost curves and everything else.
Sure.
And the second is AI, where I don't think there is any week that goes where you don't have that. And somewhere in the geopolitics, geoeconomics, I hope we don't forget that these two things are bigger challenges that as industry, as economies, as policymakers, as government, which will have a much more fundamental impact than geopolitics and geoeconomics.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad that you brought up artificial intelligence, because as I said at the start, it's been a week of screaming headlines, and it's been a very busy week for all of us. But this Anthropic piece that came about, right? And the questions that were raised. But I must say that I was at the Monetary Policy Review yesterday, and you had Deputy Governor Poonam Gupta speak about a survey that the Reserve Bank of India has done about the implications of artificial intelligence. And she said that the view is that productivity does see a spike, but interestingly also employment sees an increase, rather than the perception that employment sees a hit, because there is a churn and people seek employment in other sources. Your opinion on this topic that we're talking about, inclusivity, in the context of building strength and Atmanirbharta, and also building for the world? Because I've read conversations that you've had in the past, and you speak about the importance of labor-intensive sectors and giving them support, creating jobs through manufacturing.
Yeah, so many questions in one, Vivian. I think my personal view is AI will change. Whether it will change probably more rapidly than what we had anticipated. May not be as rapidly as what the software companies talk about, but it will definitely change more rapidly than what industry anticipates. Today, if I was to go to any corporate, if I was to sit within EY, if I was to look at how we are doing work, it will be really stupid for me not to think of how AI would challenge what we are doing. So whether we are doing consulting work, whether we are doing tax work, whether we are doing compliance work, I think fundamentally, if we don't change, someone else will come and change it. And that means that a lot of manual, repetitive, process-related work, even work where you had to, I mean, even on the legal side, on other areas, things that took hours or days to do are done in a matter of minutes. So definitely it enhances productivity. But I think to say that it does not have or may not have an impact on jobs, I would say it's early to say. One thing is for sure, that the nature of jobs will change. And I think the impact, fortunately or unfortunately, will probably be at the entry segment. I think that's where the impact will be most. So countries like India, which have one advantage, that we can be the AI labs of the world because of the size of the population that we have, the number of people that we have. I think that's a massive positive for India. But we have to be very mindful of the fact that things can change very rapidly, when suddenly some of the largest hirers in the country reduce their hiring. So when you talk to a lot of corporates, they are not saying that we will reduce the number of people that we have. A lot of them are saying, okay, we are factoring in 15% growth, but honestly, we really don't want to hire to achieve the 15% growth. I mean, honestly, even in the media industry, creative industry, there's a massive change. So I think the nature of jobs will change. And I think as a country, we'll have to now start seeing how do we prepare How do we change our education system? What are the kind of universities that we want to have? Do you want to have as many universities? I'll be provocative here.
Yes.
Or do you need more vocational institutes? How do you encourage the adoption? How do people get smarter on the adoption of AI? So I think a lot of that has to change. I don't think it's happening at this speed at which in my view, it needs to happen. Whether it's on curriculum, whether it's giving a thought on skilling, reskilling, on vocational, on newer skills that are needed. And India needs to pivot very, very rapidly to industries that are labor intensive, whether it's manufacturing, not only labor intensive manufacturing, but manufacturing in general. We still have a merchandise trade deficit of $280 billion.
Yes.
$80 billion of that can be oil, but we can go more aggressively into energy transition. We can create far more value added into India.
Yeah.
And also sectors like tourism, which I think has a big reference in the budget. So I think I must compliment the economic survey and the budget makers for bringing that. We really need to put a great focus on that so that it creates the economic engine that can employ and create much greater economic activity in India.
So let me ask you this, because the way that you're describing it, Rajeev, you're saying that the adoption of this new technology could well create a bit of a shock or a dislocation. And you've very ably described this. I think everybody will appreciate that the impact will likely be at the entry level. And so from that perspective, what you're saying in terms of creation of jobs becomes that much more important. You've described a few possibilities, but what can be done on the policy side and what can industry do at this moment, given our current capabilities, without rapidly changing that? And that would require capital as well.
See, I think from a policy standpoint, there are 2-3 things. One is India cannot shy away from adopting AI at full scale. So I think whether it's government, whether it's industries, the infrastructure that's required, I think that we need to do. Data centers, I mean, you know, AI, the growth of AI depends largely on, or data centers depends largely on data and energy. One search on ChatGPT consumes 12 times the amount of energy one search on Google does. So that's the number that we are talking about. And I think sooner or later, many countries where the energy cost is high, they will not be able to build the data infrastructure that's required. In US, the energy cost is 18 cents. In Europe, it's even higher than 18 cents. In Middle East, it's 4 cents. India will be 7-8 cents. So I think India, given the data that we have, given the amount of the energy cost and the efficiency and energy cost, especially if you are able to rapidly transition to on energy transition, we can do very well. So if I just use the example of data centers, if you are going to have 7 to 8 gigawatts of data centers in the next 5 years, that means a capex of roughly 12 lakh crores. Out of that, 8.5 lakh crores, if you study the bill of material today, 8 to 8.5 lakh crores will be imported.
Right.
Is there a way that out of that 8.5 lakh crores, we can do domestic manufacturing for 4 to 5 lakh crores? Can we have a proactive strategy for that? So I think we have to really work on the entire AI ecosystem, but we can't shy away. As a country, we should be the fastest adopters. We should use that as a massive competitive advantage and also become the use case capital of the world, using GCCs, others, and everything. That's one side of it. The second is also building the protection that's required, whether it's in terms of cyber protection, personal protection, data protection, integrity, and others. I think the laws and the regulations around that, which the DPDP Act has come, I'm sure many versions of that will come. I think that's also a very big positive. The third, which is very, very important, is reskilling and imagining a world or reimagining what the future of India and what the future of jobs will be.
Yes.
Whether for people who are in the AI or the 15 million, 20 million children who are going to get into the work stream every year, what are the newer opportunities that we are creating? And if India is going to go big in manufacturing, which I think with the trade deals done, which is a huge compliment to the government in the way they have done it and how successfully they have done it, the reforms that we are doing, I have no doubt that manufacturing in India will pick up. The government policy is very clear, but we need to accelerate manufacturing, infrastructure, have the people, have the skilling. So whether it's getting people at the higher end of the skills or people at the medium to lower end of skills, and blue-collared workers will come back much more emphatically. I think as a society we need to embrace them and we need to create skills that can take care of them.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Mr. Memani.
Thank you.
Rajeev, pleasure.
Thank you very much.